Greetings, my fellow Jedi Masters and young Padawans, and a very warm welcome to you all. So this is an Omega Seamaster chronograph from the 1970s, which accidentally got labelled with the nickname Jedi. And don't worry, I'm not going to drown you with Star Wars references and jokes. I'm a Trekkie anyway. Earl Grey, hot, engage! Number 1, you have the bridge. Now, I know a lot of you like me to include some numbers and figures in my videos, which is not always possible for various reasons. But on this one, I can tell you it costs £700 to buy in this current state. In good condition, these will fetch around the £3,000 mark and upwards. And from my previous videos, we all know that there's always a hidden reason why a watch gets sold for such a low price, and why it ends up in such a bad state in the first place. You guessed it. There is always a tinkerer behind it. So this Omega also had one of the most complicated movements ever for that era, with a bazillion parts. So just the disassembly and assembly of this movement took up a lot of video time, adding to the mix the fact that we had to do a case restoration of the bracelet, hands, and heck, we even did the box. So I could have punished you with a 4-hour-long video. So instead, I've done separate longer versions of the case, bracelet and box, which you can watch at your own leisure if you want to know the full extent of the work that went in. So without further ado, let me tell you about this Omega Seamaster Jedi, not Jedi. No, we're not going to do any Star Wars references, remember?
Okay, so I can see some sort of adhesive that was applied to the gasket, and you can see I can lift up the glass from the top. So maybe the gasket shrunk and they've applied some adhesive to keep the glass in, which is not good.
So when I first started off in this game, the name Chuck Maddox would appear in many utterances regarding most things Omega. He was a legend amongst collectors and wrote many in-depth articles on the forums about the subject matter. Chuck died at a very early age, but his passion and enthusiasm for this subject matter has left a lasting legacy.
You can see the adhesive here.
It's almost impossible to talk about this Omega Jedi topic without mentioning his name. You can find the story of Chuck and the Star Wars nicknamed Omegas on the net, so my version is a very brief abbreviation. It was Chuck who coined the nickname Darth Vader for this Vader helmet looking reference number, and you can see why.
So I removed all the adhesive and put the gasket back on, and you can see how loose this glass is. It just slides into place without any pressure whatsoever. I can lift it out with my fingers.
There was also a grey tungsten colour version of the same reference which hadn't crossed over to the dark side, hence the name Anakin Skywalker.
We'll put that away for now. Some nasty tool marks.
And just for giggles, to complete the set, Chuck named the subsequent reference number the Jedi.
Oh yeah. Nice. The Force is strong with this one.
And so the original Jedi is sort of now called the Flat Jedi to make way for this accidental Jedi that's in front of us today.
Your boy Joe's been sharpening his tweezers for this one.
But Chuck did not designate any nickname to this TV-shaped Seamaster, so what happened? Well, in 2007, a famous auction house accidentally listed one of these TV-shaped models in their catalogue as an Omega Jedi and created this schism amongst the Omega collecting community.
So you can see that chronograph minute hand is moving with the time minute hand, which is a bit strange.
The watches nicknamed by Chuck used the famous manual wind caliber 861, which was a replacement for the even more famous legendary caliber 321, which is highly coveted by collectors and featured in that famous Hollywood production, The Moon Landing. I'm only kidding, it wasn't really filmed in a Hollywood studio.
Yeah, it was filmed in Area 51.
But our watch has an automatic movement known as caliber 1040, which was developed by Omega in conjunction with Lamania, as was the 321 and 861. So let's see if this movement has the high levels of midichlorians in its DNA to be considered as a true Jedi.
Plastic, it's fantastic. Usually I just hack away at whatever movement's in front of me. But this movement was so complicated that there is this instruction booklet on how to do it properly. There's some serious part here. So now just set the chronograph to 0. Start, stop, 0. We'll just remove the chronograph bridge. So I'm going to follow the booklet. It's nice to follow someone on a video if you're trying to attempt this, but when there's a sheet available like this, I would recommend you also use the sheet. Otherwise, whatever mistakes I make, for example, I might miss an oiling step, or I might have missed something in the edit, so you're just going to end up following that mistake. So they don't often come around, but when you do have a sheet like this with such detailed instruction, it's always nice to follow it, which is what I'm going to do today. So underneath the bridge we have this small connecting wheel for the winding gear, so I'll just remove that as well. I mean, I've never had the pleasure of working on the legendary 3-2-1 movement, which was in the Moonwatch, pre-Moonwatch, but this one very similar to that, and that's the winding gear, the differential. Look how cute and tiny that is. So we have this hour recorder connecting rod. You can see that rod is sitting beneath this screw, so you'll have to loosen this screw a little bit. And that's the rod. Now before I go any further, this chronograph driving wheel is friction fitted on. I'm just going to add a bit of grease here just to loosen everything up, because I will have to pry it off later on. You don't have to do this, but from experience, this thing, if it hasn't been serviced, can be quite tough to get off, and you end up damaging the whole wheel or the pivot. So this is one time where you can't complain about me putting too much oil on something. And we'll just remove this valet for the connecting rod. What a posh name for a part. Sire, would you like a valet for your connecting rod? Why, I don't mind if I do. And this is the second hammer spring. It's held in with this screw. Again, usually I'd remove the balance wheel first, but I'm trying to follow the sheet, so that if you guys are working from the sheet and the video, it should all work out for you, I hope. Seems to be some grazing on this spring. Don't know what happened there. Someone's had a go with a pair of tweezers on that. So this is the second hammer. That should just come off like so. And now we can remove the chronograph runner. So now we want to remove this cam spring, which is also the coupling yoke spring. And again, seems like it's been dancing with fire, this one. Don't know what's going on there. Now when I removed that connecting rod, I loosened this screw. If I was gonna moan, I would have said this should have been taken off first, but my experience with flat pack furniture is, if you try and be clever and you don't follow the instructions and you miss a step, then your lovely wardrobe ends up as a coffee table. This is the upper cam for the hammer. Where's it gone? And we have a lower cam for the coupling clutch. So now we can remove this operating lever. And that's the operating lever yoke. So that screw should also be the same as the other two. And that's the intermediate operating lever. And then we have this operating lever spring, which looks like a scorpion that's lost its body in a fight. And now we can let the power down. Okay, we've got a little spring here for the bolt stem, second hammer. And then that is the bolt stem for the second hammer. So many interesting little things on this movement. Now we need to find the wigwag setting wheel spring. Now you'll hear the word over-engineered thrown around for this movement wherever you go, wherever you look. I can understand why. So now we've got this coupling wheel bridge and the coupling yoke and the coupling wheel. Oh, what's the matter with you? Sing me something new. There should be a little slit somewhere. So there is a slit there that you can use to pry open that bridge. cock or whatever you want to call it. Well, that's one way of getting it off, isn't it? And we've got this blocking lever here now. And underneath that, just stuck to it, the blocking lever yoke. There's the spring blocking lever. Come on, you little bugger. Friction spring for the runner. Now for this chronograph driving wheel here. If I go a bit out of focus here, it's because I'm having to get my eye loop on. Oh, there you go. So that little bit of oil that I put on helped a lot, and it came out quite easily. And we have this screw for the zero action pusher. Come on, pusher stem for zero action. Now I'm going to remove the date mechanism. So first we'll remove this jumper spring. Oh, sod it. I'm going to remove the date guard first. We've got the 24-hour indicator here as well. Now let's be careful with this spring since we didn't follow the instructions. And there we go. We can remove the spring now safely. And there's the hour wheel. And we can remove the date disc. And there's our little date jumper. And the hour wheel is already out because it got stuck to the date guard. And there's the hour wheel spring. The minute heart is coming off with it, but just so that you guys can follow it properly, I'll just remove the spring and leave the minute heart in there for now. And here we've got the double date connecting wheel and the date indicator driving wheel with the 24-hour indicator, and it's painted, so I don't want to get that in the wash. So now we can just remove that minute heart, and then we'll remove this minute hammer spring. Hammer time. Dun, 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 dun. And now we'll remove the minute hammer, and I've already used 5 different sizes of screwdrivers, so quite a variation in screw sizes. And this is the hour recorder stop lever. And we'll remove this mechanism bridge. There's another screw there. 4 screws. Come on, my little Padawan. Sort that out in a bit. Check out the river of juice all over it. Nice. So now that I've removed this mechanism bridge, I can see there are some parts missing on this watch. Got the valet for the minute recorder clamp, which is missing, and the 2 minute recorder clamps are also missing. So we'll have to source those parts. Now we've got this switch and switch stem. So that's another example of why a watch like this would just be abandoned. So remove the cannon pinion, this little tool here. And this is the date corrector valet, or as we'd say in England,
it's a valet, mate. It's a valet. You know what I mean? Do you want a valet? Do you want to valet your car for you?
What I'll do is disassemble the underside of the mechanism bridge. And here we have the spring for the date corrector. That's the date corrector crown. Date corrector lever. We'll remove the screw for the date corrector lever. And then all we have left, the operating lever for the date corrector. This is the hour recorder stop lever spring. As you saw in the beginning, the minute counting hand was moving with the rest of the hands, and that's probably why, or somebody who worked on it either didn't know it or knew it that there were parts missing, or since the timekeeping part of the watch was still working, they probably just thought sod it and just kicked it down the road. So I can remove this hour recorder bridge now. That's the hour hammer, hour recorder runner, eager to come out anyway. Operating lever for the hour and minute hammers. And now we just follow the normal procedure as if you were servicing a normal manual wind movement. So we'll start off with the balance. So we'll just remove this bridge that's holding in train works. So these are different. And this is shorter than the other two for some reason. Or is it just broken off? It looks like it's broken off actually. So I'll have to do a bit of investigation on that one. So as I said, these are some of the worst type of projects to work on that have been fiddled around, and because you just don't know what's missing unless you go through it step by step. But we love a challenge on this channel, don't we? Guy in the back with the Nekkid Watchmaker hat. That was a rhetorical question. You can sit back down. Yes, we all love your hat. Where did you get it from? The Nekkid Watchmaker merchandise store. Oh, such a creep. So we'll just remove the palette. There's our little palette fork. And now we'll remove the keyless. And this is the keyless cover and spring. That's the spring part. And the rest of it just acts as a cover. How long that pinion is sitting on that wheel. And underneath the keyless we've got another setting wheel, probably another intermediate setting wheel, which looks the same as the other one. Focus. Okay, fine, don't focus. The yoke and spring. So that's another spring. This watch has probably got more springs than the mechanical alarm watch I did a while back, which you can watch here. And there's the rest of it. And we have a little bit more to go. So we're going to disassemble some more sub-assemblies here. Let's remove the click and the click spring. Then the click. And there's another spring. So we have the little ratchet wheel here. And there's a special instruction for this mainspring. So you have to remove the lid without removing this hour recorder driving pinion. And it also says take the arbor out, but not the spring. So there's the arbor. I'll study and take the spring out as well. Now that is one of the longest mainsprings I've seen. So since we know that this watch has been in the hands of a tinkerer previously, I did want to take the mainspring out, but as you can see from the sheet, remove barrel arbor without extracting the mainspring.
Now, many people would say that you should leave the aging on a watch of this high caliber and leave it unpolished, and I would agree. But this watch has been polished and replated several times, and all the sharp lines have been rounded off. So it's pointless trying to be a purist in this instance.
So you can see how this has been rounded from a previous polish and plating job. So we'll use the lapping machine to bring back those sharp lines and those sharp contours and then replate it. So these two are absolutely buggered now. So look at the state of these. I could reuse them, or I've got some steel ones which I can plate. These are for the steel version of this case. You can see some of the coppering that's shining through. But from the old catalogue pictures, it does seem like that this whole top section is brushed and then this bit is sort of mirrored. See the layer of copper underneath all that gold. See how straight that line is getting now? This one is still a little bit wonky, but we'll get there. So now you can see that line is joined up with that lug here. Similar on the other side. So I think we'll move on to this section now. So from that you can see how much the case was rounded incorrectly on the previous polishes. The top and the bottom are not even catching yet. So let's carry on. Getting there. You still got those deep pits there, some tool marks there. Now these things are so worn and they're not solid, so there isn't much material I can take off to straighten that out, but I'll give it a try anyway. So I prepped the outside edge, but I didn't want to touch this hippocampus logo. Instead I'll just straight grain it.
You know what those white things are, where I used to make wristbands out of? It was like a big fat roll of this white thing, and then it was really stretchy.
Oh, that.
Yeah.
I think it's on top of the drawer, you know, the wardrobe.
Oh, can you get it for me? I'm too short.
You're too short.
Yeah.
He's only got baby arms. He's only got baby arms. You can clean that up a little bit more. Somebody has tried to remove some rust from there previously.
There are special instructions to avoid certain chemicals on some parts and to avoid ultrasonic vibrations on other parts, hence why I'm cleaning some parts by hand here.
So I usually put all the brassy stuff separate, and then you can see all the hundreds of steel parts there, some more steel parts there, copper plated stuff separate. We've got 1,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
a few other flimsy bits. So we've got all our replacement parts. We've got a new gasket. Got all our little parts that we need.
So before we start assembling the movement, there's some pre-assembly and pre-oiling to do, which makes life a little bit easier later on. And all of this is available on the datasheet for those of you who are interested.
So we have a bit more pre-assembly work, and I'm just gonna oil the winding gear, and it does say to oil the underneath of the wheel, where the wheel will rest or the gear will rest. I'm gonna grease the upper surface, and it says oil the teeth as well. So grease up all the pivoting points on the lower mechanism bridge, and we have 3 pivoting points, one for the operating lever, one for the date corrector lever, and one for the date corrector crown.
Look at what's on the tweezers.
Make sure you clean it properly before you put it back on. Mr. Trouble's trying to fix a watch.
And there was leaked acid down, and there was a...
Because he's only got baby arms.
What's that got to do with baby?
That's the lever, and we'll put a little bit on the tip. Now we can put on the date corrector lever. You can't reach the wardrobe. You can't reach the wardrobe. You can't reach the wardrobe. 'Cause he's only got baby arms. And now the date corrector crown. Make sure everything works. We'll just check the operation, and that looks good. So we're going to start off with the assembly, and it says grease the pivot hole for the hour recorder runner and put some oil here. Fit the hour recorder runner, and the Tweety bird goes here. And then the operating lever. And then you check the end shake and the freedom of the hammer. So I'm just going to oil the pivot for the click. And this is screw 2, 3, 4, 5. Just make sure that click is free, and then we can get the spring in. So we'll oil the pivoting positions for the wigwag setting wheel and the crown wheel, and it also says put a little bit on the surfaces. One goes there, and this one. Check to see everything's moving freely. A little mainspring in, and there's the ratchet wheel, and that just goes in there. And we have the driving gear for the ratchet wheel, and this is all standard procedure. And now we have the third wheel, and then we have the fourth wheel with the extended pivot, and we'll get that center wheel in. I'll put a little bit where the bridge will sit. We'll get some screws in. And we'll come back onto this side and assemble the keyless. So apparently these teeth belong to Abraham Breguet. We all Abraham Breguet's teeth. Get the winding pinion in. Groove here. And then this little fella can go in. We'll get that little pressure spring gun. There will be a little bit of rocking back and forth on that post. We also have the yoke post here. Let's put a little bit on there. A little spring in. And these two setting wheels are the same. Now I'll just oil the top and bottom pivot for the main spring barrel. (90-20), and the same for the third wheel, top and bottom, and then we go back to 90-10 for the fourth wheel, upper and lower pivots. And the same for the escape wheel, 9010. And the upper and lower post for the driving gear. You can see the other jewel just there. Give it a couple of winds. Yep, looks like it's got some fire in its belly. And you just do that a few times just to get the oil all around the escape wheel teeth. Boom! And just oil the jewels. Hello, mate. Let's just check it out. It's not bad. We'll sort all that out later. Just get this bolt stem in.
I got a made for you. Yeah.
Nekkid Watchmaker in trouble. You are a weirdo. So this is the bolt stem spring. Back to school, huh?
Yep, in 2 days.
And this is the spring for the wig-wag setting wheel. I think I need my eye loop for this. And that's in. And that's the blocking lever spring. This is the lower cam for the coupling clutch. And then the upper cam for the hammer. So we fit the operating lever spring. And this is the intermediate operating lever, which just hangs around there freely. And the operating lever yoke. And make sure it engages with our injured scorpion. Now for the operating lever itself, and I'll just move this intermediate operating lever out of the way just to get it seated correctly, like so. Friction spring with a Teflon coating. And we have the chronograph runner. Now we can get the differential in, making sure that the teeth engage properly, and then on top of that we can get the winding gear in, and we'll get the chronograph bridge in. Now the blocking lever yoke and the blocking lever. And now for the coupling. And we've got this gorgeous looking screw here with a massive thick head, slab head. Now this chronograph driving wheel, you have to fit it very carefully and make sure that it's the same height as the coupling wheel. And you can get an idea of the different heights there. So we want to get them both the same height so they're engaged with each other.
I'm gonna see if I can write this.
And I think that's pretty level. and it's also pretty level on this axis as well. So now we have this spring which acts as a cam spring and a coupling yoke spring, and I've cleaned it up as much as necessary. Second hammer, we'll get the second hammer spring while we're at it. And there's the second hammer spring, a couple of guide pins there. Brr. I've oiled up the top and bottom surfaces, the pusher stem for the zero action. So for the chronograph section, there's all the greasing points here, so I won't go through all that on the video. You can follow those and just tick them off as you go along, as I've done. I forgot all about the quick set date mechanism, and this does rock slightly even though there's a screw there. And here I'll just oil the top and bottom of the differential, and then we can move on. So taking out the balance while I work on this side, and to put the cannon pinion, put in hand setting mode. So we'll just oil up the switch stem on the switch. Finally, I've got my parts which were missing. Come on, don't be shy. There we go. Brand spanking new old stock parts. Look at these lovely unmarked parts which were produced in the factory many decades ago and have been sitting inside the packets waiting for me to unpack them. The extensive oiling for all of this section is on the sheet, so I won't go through all of it, otherwise we'll be here till next year, because there's so many oiling points. You can get this valet in. The hour recorder stop lever will be in contact with this valet for minute recorder clamp. Let's get those minute recorder clamps on. Someone's obviously decided that they don't need these. Cheeky little tinkerer, huh? So you can see how the cannon pinion stops moving and only the minute part moves, and those clamps stop it from moving. So now we're just gonna install the minute hammer. So now we'll get the minute hammer spring in. Hello mate, can you help me out? Do some ticking for me. Did you get any homework or anything today?
Yeah.
It's your first day back, so.
But if it's sleep, then I'm not doing it.
It is what? Just engage that spring. Now we'll get the hour recorder stop lever.
But why do these flies keep on banging into our windows?
Because they're idiots, mate. Go on then, do some ticking for me. I've done that one. And that one. And I've done that. I've done that as well. Go on, tick that for me as well. Got the hour recorder stop lever spring. So that's the date corrector valet, which is supposed to go on now, but for some reason I already put that on, so that's no biggie because it didn't obstruct us from doing anything else. We can put the mechanism bridge on now. Two here, one here, one there, and there's one more here, I think. I'll just check them. And now we're going to go back onto the other side and install the connecting rod. And I'll just finish off a few more oiling points with my eye loop. And we have the connecting rod valet. We're nearly there. Come on, stick with me. Those of you nodding off, stay with me. Won't you stay with me? 'Cause you're all I need. And now we can finally get the rod in. Oh, I forgot to press record again. Well, I did press record, but I didn't. So I put this fiddly thing on. Now I take it off again.
Oh, won't you stay with me, 'cause you're all I need.
And that's the minute heart. Got the hour wheel spring. So we're gonna stick the date indicator driving wheel with the 24-hour indicator. Double date connecting wheel. So we'll oil all these pivoting points. Double date connecting wheel. So many oiling points, so my apologies if I don't get all of them on video, but maybe it's something I can add onto my Patreon page, more detailed, sort of showing all the screws and oiling points. If you guys want, let me know. Most of my patrons just sign up just to say thank you, but there are a few who sort of ask questions on a one-to-one basis, and I try and answer them. They're stuck on a project or they need some advice. Our wheel. I feel a bit sad that it's nearly finished. Complicated, over-engineered or not. It's been a pleasure to work on this thing. Now let's test the date. Quick say is fine. Boom.
Squeaky clean.
So, as you can see, these hands have lost their loom. So I'm just going to get the hour and minute hand in the wash just to remove all that, and then I'll reloom it. The Jedi lightsaber has got a bit of a red tip on it, so I'll clean that manually. And everything else, let me just give it a quick wash and see if it comes up a little bit nicer. I'm just using a gold polishing cloth, see if I can get it to shine a little bit. So now you can see that minute recorder hand is not moving with the normal minute hand as it was when we started off. So as you can see, there's plenty of life left in it. That little bit needs a bit of work. The rest of it seems alright, but I don't think it would go with the nice clean case, so we'll try and give this a little play around with and see what we can achieve.
For those of you who haven't watched the full bracelet restoration video, let me give you a quick recap. Initially, I just tidied the bracelet up and made it sanitary. I cleaned it, did some minor repairs and gave it a gentle buff to remove some of the surface scratches. But when I installed the bracelet, the newly restored case was like, ew, get that thing away from me. The fresh gold plating on the case did not match the color of the bracelet. So I gently polished it further until I had a nice clean surface to replate the same 18 karat gold as the case.
danger.
Now, many of you who saw the first video instantly sat up in your chairs and thought, dude, that's what's happened to my box, and recognized that this was a common problem on many watch boxes. They become lonely and depressed and start to let themselves go a bit. So due to public demand, and since this topic has never been covered on YouTube, I thought it would be rude not to restore the box. And since I did the box restoration video, many of you messaged me with joy and hope that you too can now restore your old boxes. But again, it was too long to add to this video, so I've just added a semi-skimmed version here, and if you want a full fat version, you can watch it later over here.
Get our little tachymeter scaling. Check out the beta now, and I'm sure I can get that even better if I want, but I'm so tired. Show them the way to go home. They're tired and they want to go to bed.
Show him the way to go home. He's tired and he wants to go to bed for a nap.
'Cause he's only
half a watchmaker
compared
to the rest of them. Ho!
Do you see how they mock me? Because I only said he had baby arms. So there you go, folks. I hope you enjoyed this one. I thoroughly enjoyed working on this watch, but the editing was grueling on this one. There was so much I wanted to cram in, but I had to leave out to keep this video under 1 hour. I could have done a 10-minute video on the hands alone and all the different things I tried to give them a modern vintage look. There was also a lot of stuff I wanted to cover with the movement and the oiling, but looking back at it, it felt too technical and laborious. So I don't know, maybe I'll add them onto my Patreon page if anyone wants to really have a go. I really enjoyed working on this, but I'm not quite satisfied with the video and would like to revisit this model in a stainless steel version, so watch this space. So can we anoint this piece as a true Jedi? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Cool nickname or not, I think it's a really cool piece. So thank you all for chilling out with me for a bit, and I hope you guys found this one useful in some way. Like, share, subscribe and all that good stuff you do. Look after yourselves, folks, and take care of each other. Peace, love and blessings to you all. And if the Almighty wills, I'll see you in the next one. Try a bit.